Alright, welcome to our second video. This one is going to be more of the nuts and bolts of the rules that we have to follow in order for this to be a successful classroom and a successful year for all of our French students. Now you'll notice on the screen here it says, Dear ECMEC Student, Parent, and Guardian. Well, ECMEC is the group that has put together all this television equipment and the internet and all this kind. No, they didn't put the internet together, but they put together my access to the internet with the high-speed webcam and so on, so that I can do these kinds of things and teach French to many students across the state of Minnesota. ECMEC basically means East Central Minnesota Educational Cable Cooperative. Back in the old days, these things were over cable television instead of now over the internet. So that's the overall parent group that watches our systems, makes sure that we have the equipment we need and keeps it in operating condition. They have a set of rules that they have in place to make sure that their equipment is not broken down too quickly. They have a life expectancy on these things, and things like spilling pop into a computer doesn't do the computer a whole lot of good. So we have rules for those things to try and make things more efficient. And there will be a sheet. I don't have a copy of that for you here on this video, but there is a sheet that you will bring home and have your parents sign off saying that you understand the ECMEC rules. And these rules that you see here are kind of a repeat of a lot of those from the ECMEC rules. So I'm going to just cover all these. These are my expectations. They piggyback and they parallel the ECMEC expectations. And this will give us a framework to work within this year so that we can accomplish what it is we want to do, which is, I hope, learn French and be really good at it. So the first thing here, it says, be in your assigned seat when the bell rings in your sight, because a lot of times I'm teaching French not just in Cambridge, where I'm sitting right now, but also to Bram, to Mora, to Pine City, to East Central, which is almost up into Duluth, to Chisago Lakes, which is down by Lindstrom. I have 8 different school districts that I teach French into, and so their schools all don't start at the same time. And so the bell at that school rings, those students need to be in their seats at that time so that the people in that building can take attendance and so on, and get the right people in the right places and they're not wandering in the halls and getting in trouble. So for Cambridge, if you're in Cambridge, that means be in your seat when the Cambridge bell rings to start class. If you're in Bram, your bell might have rang 3 minutes before the Cambridge bell did. That means you got to be in your seat in Bram when that bell rings at your school, okay, or wherever that school happens to be. That way, we know people are where they're supposed to be, and actually you're on camera, so we can do attendance even if we're not seeing everybody all at the same time. Now, it says the second one, be on camera at all times. That actually protects you, because again, if this equipment it is expensive. I'm not if it's expensive, it is expensive. But if you're not on camera and like you're sitting off to the side and you can barely see, and then something is broken, they're going to go, well, we can see 7 of the 8 students, the 8th one is missing, he must be the one that broke it. Okay, so you want to be on camera, whole head and body, so that there's no doubt that you were where you were supposed to be and you were doing what you were supposed to be doing on camera. Okay? Now, because you're on camera, you need to make sure that you're aware that you're doing something that's not going to get you in trouble all the time. In other words, here's a quick story for you. Somebody was on camera and the screen was blank, so they thought they were all by themselves on camera, and so they were using it like a mirror, and this one young lady walks in and unbuttons her shirt and adjusts her bra and then buttons her shirt back up, assuming that she's the only one seeing it. But here we all are, and we're going, hey, whoa, stop. But she didn't have a signal to us. She couldn't hear or see us, but we could hear and see her. So, yeah, assume that if you're on camera, somebody's watching you all the time, okay? And be on camera all the time. Don't slide off to the side, because if something has ever gone wrong, you're the one that's going to get blamed. Because we can go back and look at the discs, the copies, the recordings of these classes and see who was where, when. Next one says, bring all your materials and assignments to class, no passes. Because of the limited amount of time that we have together to try and do all these things that we have to do to learn French 1, I'm not going to say, oh, you forgot your workbook, go get it. It's like, well, you have to look at somebody else's, because it's more important that we cover the material together then you take time to go off and get yourself a drink of water or get the pencil that you dropped or something like that, okay? Now, of course, if there's emergencies, I will, take that into consideration. I basically say if it's not broken, bleeding, or if you're not barfing, broken, or bitten off, don't ask. So if you're going to be sick, go. If you're bleeding, go to the nurse. If you've broken something, broken off something, then of course you're going to be able to go and take care of those things, because I can't handle that right here in the classroom. But for the minor things, please plan ahead and have all the materials you need so that we don't lose time trying to learn French, because this is the only place really that, for most people, they have any chance to practice French. They don't probably have a whole lot of French spoken at home, so being out of class when we're doing things makes it hard to catch up and keep up. If you're absent, most schools require an admit slip. In Cambridge it's a green slip. Other schools have different color slips, but you have to show it to me that I know it was an excused absence or a school excused absence and so on, and get the makeup work. With these videos, a lot of the times, here's my thing, with the videos, a lot of time will be, watch, Godfrey French channel, whatever video, and then that will be your makeup work. But if you don't bring your admit slip, then I can't, legally, I'm technically not supposed to tell you what the makeup work is, or at least accept it if you get it done. I'll work with you on that, because I want you to understand what's going on more so than I'm worried about getting you credit for something. It's that you know and learn, and the assignments prove to me that you learned this and you probably know it. Okay. Number 5 is don't touch the equipment unless asked to do so. That includes your personal electronics that you might be using to watch these YouTube videos. If everybody is coming in and they're touching the camera, and the next person comes in and why is the camera not on? Because the last person turned it off. Or if you're on your cell phone and you're not doing these YouTube videos, but instead you're text messaging, and then you miss something because you were so absorbed by that instead of what I was saying, then that's not going to make you a very successful student in the long haul. So again, don't touch the equipment and be ready to go with the stuff when you're told to do so by the teacher. Listen to others. Of course, you have to speak loudly and clearly because of the electronics here. Sometimes those microphones aren't as sensitive as they should be, or at least they're not as sensitive as the human ear usually. And so we want you to be listening appropriately and speaking nice and loud. No, don't talk down here, Mom, because it's really hard to make. It's really hard to make out what people are saying if they do that. So, what works maybe to your partner next door, sitting next to you, doesn't work so well to a student in Bram or wherever if we have a connection like that going on. In the remote sites in particular, I'm going to mail assignments to you, and we don't want you to open those mail packets up until I tell you to do so. There might be surprises in there might be a quiz in there or a test or something, and we don't want you having the unfair advantage of having seen all the questions on the test long before everybody else has had the chance to see that same one. So you're going to get packets that say French 1, Chapter 1, and I'll say grab this ... out of there, or grab this quiz out of there on the appropriate days, then you go and get it. But don't do it ahead of time, because it makes it unfair to everybody if you have an extra amount of time to look at everything before we actually get going on it. And in general, one student will be the person who, and you kind of decide amongst yourselves who that one person is going to be, who's going to be the main secretary who opens the things up and passes things out and gathers them up and sends out the envelopes and that kind of thing. This number 8 should be fairly obvious, but of course cheating and plagiarism doesn't show us what you know, doesn't teach us what you've learned. It just shows us that you're able to copy-paste, basically. Don't do that. You get a 0 for that assignment, and a lot of times that means that you're going to have a hard time passing the class, or at least doing well in the class. There goes your letter grades, dropping down, down, down. For those of us who are in ECMEC classes, you have warning letters that you're going to get, and I would describe that in person. I'll talk about ECMEC rules. They have a high standard at ECMEC. If you are caught cheating or AWOL, or you're inappropriate on the television system, you get a warning letter and an infraction letter, it's called sometimes. If you get 2 infraction letters, ECMEC will drop you from the class, because they only can really afford to have people that can be trusted in amongst all this expensive equipment. And so if you're cheating, that will get you a plagiarism or an infraction letter sent home, so your parents will find out about it. And but that's strike one. And remember, if you get 2 strikes, you're out. It's not like baseball where you get 3 strikes. You get 2 strikes before ECMEC will drop you from the class. When we're here, well, let's work on French. Like I said before, we only have a limited amount of time that we can talk about this stuff together, so we want to make sure that we are doing French when we're in French class. Don't whisper. Remember, there's microphones as well as cameras all around, so if you whisper, that sound will be amplified by our systems, and it will get louder and louder and louder. So, when you're given class time to work on something, do the work, don't visit. Be nice to each other, no swearing or put downs, and sometimes that's as minor as, hey, Bram's stupid, Don't do that, because all you're doing is hurting feelings. You're not promoting any kind of a positive environment for learning or anything like that. So no swearing or put downs at any time. Or, Cambridge rocks, that's okay, but, Cambridge doesn't, is not okay from their school in particular. And then 12 is kind of catch-all. Sometimes things come up. I don't anticipate. These are the things that usually come up, every year, and I see them once in a while, so I know to expect them. But every once in a while, something comes up that I haven't thought of, or new technology comes out, or a new rule is made by the state of Minnesota or something. So any other rules that might come up, be ready to follow that if I bring that up. In other words, these rules are subject to change, as the legal disclaimer might be. So, as you see here, any behavior or attitude which hinders the learning in this class will result in a written warning and possible removal from the class. Total, no credit. Removal from the class, okay? That's the 2 strikes and you're out thing I talked about with the ECMEC rules. Sign it. Have your parents sign it, but also please, on this line, write your name easy to read, legibly, okay? If it's easy to read, it's legible, because sometimes your signature is if it's like my signature, not even all the letters of my name are there. And so, sometimes I can't tell who it was who wrote that. But if you print your name so it's easy to read, then I'll know that you and your parents have agreed that you understand these rules and you're going to try to abide by them. Okay? I know this is the boring, first day of school stuff that you have to go through, but we do have to have a framework in which we can work together as a group to do everything that we need to do in a given day. So I appreciate you taking the time to listen to this, and I also appreciate the fact that you're going to get them signed by both yourself and your parents, so that, and turn them back into me. You're going to get points for this. So these are your first easy free points for the year. Get that turned into me as soon as possible, and I know that we're going to have a great year if we follow these kinds of rules and contracts, if you would. Okay? So thanks for your time again. We'll be moving on, actually learning some French stuff real soon.